Untold every day. Real people, raw stories.
Summer after my college graduation. My girlfriend Chloe and I had been together for almost 5 years, since high school. We had big plans, moving into our first apartment together in the fall, starting our careers. This trip, 2 weeks at a charming old villa in the Tuscan countryside, was supposed to be our last hurrah before adulting truly began. We were excited, or at least I thought we were. The villa was beautiful, nestled among rolling hills of vineyards, with ancient stone walls that whispered stories. But the first few days, a subtle tension started to build between Chloe and me. It wasn't a fight, just a quiet distance. We were together, but we felt miles apart. I attributed it to pre-move stress, maybe just too much time together. Then, at a local wine festival in a nearby village, I met Isabella. She was the complete opposite of Chloe, vibrant, spontaneous, with a laugh that echoed through the narrow, cobbled streets. She was an art student from Florence, visiting her family. We talked for hours, just easy conversation, no pressure. It was intoxicating, a breath of fresh air I didn't realize I was suffocating without. Chloe had gone back to the villa early with a headache. Isabella and I ended up walking through the moonlit piazza, talking until the streetlights hummed and the last vendors were packing up. She invited me to an impromptu gathering at her family's farmhouse the next day. I hesitated for only a moment. Just for a few hours, I told myself. Harmless fun. The next day, I made up an excuse for Chloe. Something about wanting to explore a different part of the village alone, needing some me time. The lie felt surprisingly easy on my tongue. At Isabella's farmhouse, it wasn't just a few hours. It was the whole day. We danced, we laughed, we drank too much local wine. The world outside that ancient stone house, outside of Isabella's bright smile, ceased to exist. When I finally left, it was late, the stars impossibly bright above the winding country roads, and I felt a profound, unsettling guilt, but also a thrill I hadn't felt in years. Over the next week, the pattern repeated. More lies to Chloe, more stolen moments with Isabella. We met in quiet cafes, walked through hidden olive groves, kissed beneath ancient arches. Each time the guilt was a bitter taste, but the excitement, the feeling of being truly seen and alive, drowned it out. I started to believe this was just a harmless, temporary escape of fantasy. What happened in Tuscany stayed in Tuscany, but the villa itself started to feel different. When I was with Chloe, the silence between us was no longer just distant. It felt heavy, judgmental. I started hearing things at night, faint whispers from the empty hallways, the creak of floorboards above our heads when no one was there. I dismissed them as the sounds of an old building, but they began to sound like accusations, like the villa itself knew my secret. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, convinced I heard Isabella's laugh echoing from the garden, or felt her hand on my shoulder, only to find Chloe sleeping peacefully beside me. On our last night, as Chloe packed, she found a small, intricately carved wooden bird, a gift Isabella had given me, tucked deep in my backpack. It was a local artisan piece, unique. Her eyes, usually so warm, turned to ice. She didn't shout, she didn't cry. She just looked at me with a quiet, knowing gaze that stripped away every lie, every justification. "Who is she?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, yet it cut deeper than any scream. I tried to deny it, to stammer out an explanation, but the words withered on my tongue. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only by the sounds of the Tuscan night, the cicadas, the rustle of the cypress trees. But now, they sounded like a chorus of judgment, condemning me. We flew home in silence. The apartment we were supposed to share suddenly felt like a tomb. The adulting we were supposed to begin never happened together. Chloe moved out a week later. She never yelled, never blamed me, just packed her boxes with a quiet, devastating finality. The silence she left behind was louder than any argument. The vacation had ended, but the fling hadn't stayed in Tuscany. It followed me home. For months, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, convinced I heard Isabella's laugh or the faint, distant echo of those whispers from the old villa. The guilt, sharp and relentless, became my constant companion. It wasn't a ghost, not in the traditional sense, but the haunting was real. It was the ghost of a destroyed future, and the chilling realization that a moment of selfish fantasy could rip apart years of shared history, leaving behind nothing but empty rooms and the silent, echoing accusations of a love I had carelessly broken. Story 2. The Stranger on the Cruise Ship. I was 25, fresh out of a long-term stagnant relationship and feeling utterly adrift. My best friend Maya convinced me to join her on a 7-day cruise through the Caribbean. It'll be good for you, she'd said. New people, new places, no strings attached. I just wanted to forget, to feel alive again, even if just for a week. The first few days were exactly what I needed. Sun, sea, endless buffets, and the anonymity of 1,000 strangers. I met Leo on the third night at the ship's main lounge. He was older, maybe mid-30s, with a charming smile and an easy confidence that immediately drew me in. He worked in finance, lived across the country, and was just on the cruise to unwind. He was charismatic, attentive, and made me laugh in a way I hadn't in years. There was no talk of futures, no expectations. It was a classic shipboard romance, confined to the bubble of the vessel. We spent our days by the pool, our nights dancing under the stars on the deck, sharing stories and laughing too loud. It felt liberating, a complete escape from my real life, from the lingering pain of my recent breakup. I told myself it was harmless, a temporary fling to reignite something lost within me. What happened on the ship stayed on the ship. On the 5th day, we docked at a small, picturesque island. Leo and I spent the day exploring, swimming in hidden coves, and talking about everything and nothing. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in fiery hues, he looked at me, his eyes intense. "I wish this week didn't have to end," he said, his voice low. I felt a pang. It was a fantasy, a beautiful, fleeting one, but reality was waiting back home. That night, back on the ship, after a final bittersweet dance, we said our goodbyes. It was casual, light, exactly what we'd agreed upon. "Great meeting you, have a good life," that sort of thing. I felt a strange mix of sadness and a quiet sense of closure. The fling was over. I was ready to go home, refreshed. The flight back was long. I landed, picked up my bags, and checked my phone. My heart sank. There were dozens of missed calls and texts from my ex, David. My stomach clenched. Had something happened? He rarely contacted me anymore. I called him back, my voice hesitant. "Where have you been?" he demanded, his voice tight, barely controlled. "I've been trying to reach you all week." I explained about the cruise, about the poor cell service. "What's wrong?" I asked, a new dread starting to set in. "What's wrong?" he repeated, his voice laced with venom. "I know about him. I know about Leo." My mind reeled. How could he possibly know? I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't posted anything. My heart pounded. "What are you talking about, David?" "Don't play dumb," he snarled. He messaged me on social media, sent me pictures, said you two were going to be together. My blood ran cold. Pictures? Leo hadn't taken any pictures. We had been careful, discreet. And why would he contact David? This wasn't just a harmless fling, it was something far more sinister. David then started describing details that only someone who had been with me on the ship could know. Conversations we'd had, places we'd visited on the island. He was hurt, furious, and deeply betrayed. Our stagnant relationship, which I thought was already over, was now irrevocably shattered, blown apart by a phantom. I tried to reach Leo. His phone number was disconnected. His social media profiles were gone. It was like he had vanished the moment I stepped off the ship. The pictures he sent David were blurry, taken from a distance, but they were unmistakably me and him. He must have taken them stealthily, without me knowing. The weeks that followed were a nightmare. David wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't believe anything I said. Our mutual friends were confused, many taking David's side, convinced I was a manipulative cheater. My reputation was in tatters. My life, which I thought was on the cusp of a fresh start, was now consumed by a relentless, invisible enemy. I developed a deep paranoia. Every stranger I saw, every new message notification made my heart leap into my throat. Was it Leo? Was he still out there watching? Was he just messing with me or something worse? I started seeing his face in crowds, hearing his voice in passing conversations. It was a terrifying, isolating experience. I never found out who Leo truly was or why he did what he did. Was he just a cruel, pathological manipulator who got a kick out of destroying lives? Or was there something more personal, something I'd missed? The mystery of it still haunts me. The cruise was supposed to be my escape, my fresh start. Instead, it became the week my life was ruined, not by love, but by a chilling, anonymous betrayal. The ship itself, once a symbol of freedom, became a floating prison of deceit. And sometimes, even now, when I hear a passing laugh that sounds like his or see someone with a similar gait, a cold dread washes over me. The fling didn't just ruin a relationship, it left me with a deep, unsettling fear of the unknown, and a chilling reminder that some strangers you meet are far more dangerous than they appear. Story 3, The Beach House Mirror. My girlfriend Sarah and I had been together for 3 years. We were in that comfortable, slightly predictable stage of a relationship. For our anniversary, we booked a week at a secluded beach house on the Outer Banks, far from the usual tourist traps of Sunset Beach. It was a rustic place, old and a little worn, but with a huge panoramic view of the desolate dunes and the crashing Atlantic. We envisioned quiet mornings, long walks, and reconnecting. But like many such plans, it didn't quite pan out. By the third day, the reconnecting had devolved into polite silence and lingering resentments. Sarah was constantly on her phone, distant. I felt isolated, trapped in a house with someone who suddenly felt like a stranger. The endless roar of the ocean outside seemed to mock our strained silence. One afternoon, I decided to take a long walk down the beach, needing to clear my head. The coastline was deserted, just endless stretches of sand and sky. That's when I saw her, sitting alone by a driftwood fire, sketching in a notebook. Her name was Maya. She was a free spirit traveling solo, camping on remote beaches. She had a kind, open face and eyes that sparkled with intelligence. We talked for hours about art, about life, about the vastness of the ocean. She listened intently, truly listened, in a way Sarah hadn't in months. I felt a connection with her that was immediate and profound. It wasn't physical at first, just an intellectual and emotional intimacy that felt like a revelation. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, and for a moment, I completely forgot about the beach house, about Sarah, about my entire life back home. The next day, and the day after, I found myself drawn back to Maya's spot on the beach. I told Sarah I was going for long runs or exploring the dunes. Each lie felt heavier, but the pull towards Maya, towards the easy laughter and profound conversations, was irresistible. We explored hidden coves, found ancient seashells, and talked about dreams and fears under the vast, indifferent sky. Eventually, the emotional intimacy inevitably blurred into physical closeness. It felt right, natural, like a part of me I hadn't known was missing. I tried to tell myself it was just a vacation thing, a temporary awakening. But a part of me knew this was different. This wasn't just a fling. Back at the beach house, the air grew thick with unspoken words. Sarah and I were barely speaking. One evening, after I'd returned late from a walk with Maya, Sarah was standing in the master bathroom, staring into the large ornate mirror above the sink. Her back was to me. "Are you seeing someone?" she asked, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. My blood ran cold. How did she know? I hadn't left anything out. I hadn't made any obvious mistakes. "What are you talking about?" I stammered, my voice sounding weak and false. She slowly turned around. In her hand, she held my phone. Not my regular phone, but an old burner phone I kept in a hidden compartment in my duffel bag, only for emergencies. It was the phone I had only used to text Maya. "This was plugged into the wall in the living room," she said, her eyes fixed on me. I needed to charge my own phone, and it was the only charger plugged in. My stomach dropped. I had been so careful. I had only charged it late at night or when Sarah was out. How could I have been so stupid? The dread was immediate, overwhelming. I saw the texts, she continued, her voice still eerily calm. All of them. The plans, the goodbyes. The world seemed to tilt. The confession poured out of me, a torrent of guilt and desperate apologies. Sarah didn't scream, didn't cry. She just listened, her face utterly blank. When I finished, she simply nodded, a slow, deliberate gesture. Get out, she said, her voice still quiet, but now imbued with a chilling finality. Pack your bags. I want you gone tonight. I tried to argue, to beg, but the look in her eyes stopped me cold. It was a gaze I had never seen before, empty, broken, and utterly resolved. I packed my bags in stunned silence, the sound of the ocean outside now a mournful wail. I left the beach house that night, alone, driving through the pitch-black Outer Banks, the enormity of what I'd done crushing me. The relationship ended, of course, not with a bang, but with a quiet, devastating whimper. But the true haunting began months later. I started seeing her. Not Sarah, but Maya. I'd catch glimpses of her in crowds, a flash of red hair, a particular way of walking. I'd hear her distinctive laugh in a coffee shop. I'd turn, my heart leaping, only to find a stranger. It happened constantly. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks on me, a manifestation of my guilt. But then, it got worse. I started seeing her reflection in mirrors, brief, fleeting glimpses. I'd be walking past a shop window or glance into my bathroom mirror, and there she would be for a split second, standing directly behind me, her eyes empty, her face devoid of any emotion, just staring, always from behind me, always silent. It was never real. I'd spin around, but there would be nothing there, just the empty space. It was like her image had been burned into my consciousness, or perhaps something had hitched a ride from that remote beach. I don't know why this happened. Maybe it's just my conscience manifesting in a terrifying way. But the ghost of that vacation fling, the image of Maya's vacant reflection in the glass, follows me. It's a chilling constant reminder that sometimes the most profound betrayals leave not just emotional scars, but a haunting presence that quietly, relentlessly shatters your peace, and that some secrets you try to bury, especially on an empty beach, have a way of finding their way back to haunt you.
Side eye in your closet. Do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll never miss a tale untold every day.